Hey, Facebook Live, this is Ron Blake. I'm getting ready to record a podcast, and I want you, my Facebook friends, to be able to watch me do that, and you'll be able to both hear it and see it. This is actually episode 31 of Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, and it'll be posted, probably next week or the week after. I'm trying to keep ahead. Being ill last week with bad allergy and cold kept me got me behind schedule. I try to do 3 or more a week, so I'm having to kind of double up this week. So again, glad that you've joined us. In just a moment, I'm going to hit the record button, and I'm going to record, as I said, episode 31 of Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Thanks for joining us. And if you live in the Indianapolis area, I look forward to seeing you tonight at Indianapolis Southwest Church of the Nazarene, where we're having a wonderful time of services with Reverend David Gallimore and Justin Wells leading the singing. Begins at 7 o'clock this evening in Indianapolis at the Southwest Church. Glad you joined us. And now we are going to begin this episode of Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. You are listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I just ask you to consider this a vitamin and supplement today for your mind, your heart, and your soul. Wherever you download podcasts, if you would please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, and then go to that place, wherever that is, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, so forth, and would you leave a rating and a review that will help other people who don't know about the podcast yet to be able to discover it. Today I want to talk about all of us being persons of influence. Now, all of us have influence. We are all influencing someone. What are those things that go into making a person of influence? Maybe you think it's your formal training. I just got reflecting on that the other day because it's been 45 years ago, a week or so, that I graduated from high school. I graduated from college in the late 70s and from seminary in the very early 80s. And here's what I've discovered. When my formal education was done, most of today's problems didn't even exist. When I was in college, there were no computers. You had to write it all by hand. We were just a couple of years away from having written it all on stones, but we had to take paper notes with us. There were no smartphones. We didn't have cell phones, GPS. We had to find our ways the best way we could. There was no World Wide Web, no internet. And the world that I was trained for doesn't exist. I received a wonderful education. I received the best preparation in my day and age. But if I left it at that, your formal education alone is not going to make you a person of influence. I remember graduating with a master's degree and going to take my first church in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I preached the 2 sermons that I knew on Sunday morning and Sunday night the day before. It's now Monday. My office, which is really about like a broom closet on steroids, I have all of my books stacked into that room. I have a legal pad and a pen and a Bible. And now I'm sitting here Monday. I have been trained for 8 years on how to do what I'm now doing. And I sat there on that Monday morning, and if I close my eyes, I can remember the smells, the thoughts, exactly how I felt back in 1981. And I said, now what do I do? When you know you're going to learn something is what have you learned after you know it all? And many times between our formal training and actually showing up to do something, there seems to be a large gap. And so if you're relying on what you learned 10 or 5 years ago, let me be the person to break it to you. Your training from 10 years and even 5 years ago may be some of it obsolete. Now, some of it's principles that last forever, but the world is changing and it's changing rapidly. And you and I must continue to learn. In a previous episode, I talked about a purchase that we made for the office years ago and how proud we were and how I had to raise the money to make it fit within the budget. But I knew getting this piece of equipment would bring us into the 20th century and make us very effective. It was a fax machine. And today, that gleaming item that I paid good money. Actually, I had to raise the money for it, and made us technologically savvy and advanced for our time sits in the junk heap of time, because today with my neat scanner, I can scan a document into my computer and literally send it anywhere in the world. And who knows what technology will be like in the days ahead. But the problem is, the most valuable asset in your organization is not your computers, your hardware, your software, and any other items you have. It's not even your property, the building, the facilities, or the programming. The most valuable asset in any organization is the people. People. I hear people say once in a while, well, I would really like my job if it weren't for the people. And let me tell you today, if it weren't for people, you wouldn't have a job. People are your most valuable asset. If you're a Christian, it tells us that God so loved the world that he sent his son. He didn't love facilities. He didn't love property. He loved people. So your greatest asset is people. All of us have been influenced by the people in our lives. Our family members, teachers, other significant people. Now here's what I'm noticing happens as you become older. More people today are stopping and asking me when that I meet them, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I don't believe it's because I'm so smart or even the position that I hold. I think people recognize as you get a little bit older and you've lived some of life and you've had good times and bad times and everything in between, that you just have some life experience and may have something valuable to say. Now today you may feel like you don't have any assets to be a key person of influence. But let me just stop. I could go on, stop with 4 things that are your assets to making you a person of influence that can influence your family, influence others, and influence people for good. The first thing is, if you're a believer, it's your faith. When you have faith, you believe that God is for you, and if God's for you, who can be against you? And our faith for us just keeps us going in the face of adversity, in the face of trial, in the face of difficulties. We just keep going. Feed and nurture your faith. It's a valuable thing, because when you learn lessons, then you are in a position to share those lessons and to pass them on to others. I think the second thing I would say is your passion. Are you passionate about what you do? There are some places I go that it doesn't seem like anyone is very passionate about anything. But if you believe that this is what God has placed you on earth to do, you need to be passionate about it. What gets you up in the morning? What keeps you going? What do you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were created to do? Now, if you don't know, you ought to find out. And if you're a person of faith, let's go back to chapter 1. God, why have you placed me in where I am today for such a time as this? What do you want me to do? What is it that you have for me to do? And then be passionate about it. One of the things I've often said to people who've done what I've done most of my life, and that was preach, if you want the congregation to catch a cold, you better have pneumonia. You have to be passionate about who you are, what you've been called to do, and whatever level you're leading in any organization, passion is a key asset to say, this is what I believe we should be doing. This is where I believe we should be going. Come on, gang, let's move in this direction for a preferable future. And so your asset is your faith. Your asset is also your passion for what it is that you're doing. And then the skills that you have learned. Now you might say, I have very few skills. You can't have lived life without picking up how to do a few things. Some people know how to run a television remote. They know how to turn it on, sit on the couch and sit there and change channels. And that has almost become a skill for them. Now that's somewhat trying to be humorous, but you have skills. There are things that you have learned. There are things that you have done that are a part of your skills. And they become the building block on which to learn new skills. And what you have learned, what you've observed, what you've done by trial and error, that is the skill set that you have today that makes you an asset to your family, to your organization, to your world. You have a unique contribution to make. The fourth one, the one I'm going to stop with, is your story. Everyone has a story. Your story is unique to you. You were born into a particular family. You experienced particular things. I shared a little bit yesterday about a 5th grade experience that has in many ways colored my life. Now I've overcome it and I've moved on, but it is a part of my story. Part of my story is some incredible people came along in my life who invested in me. From my grandparents, parents, pastors, Sunday school teachers, administrators, colleagues, friends, some who served as mentors and coaches before I ever used the word mentor or coach. There are significant people who have poured into your life and are a part of your story. And today, you have a story to share with someone else. Why don't you ask the Lord to touch your eyes today and to look around wherever you are and to look for that young man, young woman who needs you to invest in them. If you want to be a person of influence, it won't matter how many speeches you've given, where you've traveled, who knows you, how many books you've written or read. The fact is, have you poured your life into others? The most valuable asset we have in any place is the people we are surrounded by. Be sure and share your story. Your story really isn't a story until you tell it, until you share it with someone. And the thing that will happen is the Lord will orchestrate the events of your life in such a way that He will send you, or will send across your path people who are going through some of the things that you've gone through, who more than anything else need to hear your story. You, my friend, are a person of influence. Use your influence for good to make a difference. Whether you know it or not, you're a leader. You're leading at home, you're leading in your community, at work, wherever you are. Someone is watching your life. Make up your mind today that you're going to be a person of influence. You're going to follow your faith. You're going to be filled with passion. You're going to have skills and continue to develop them. And be sure and tell your story and pour your life into other people's lives. This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. Consider this your vitamin or supplement for your mind today. And wherever you download podcasts, would you mind subscribing to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? And once again, would you please leave a rating and a brief written review? It'll help and assist others who have not located this podcast yet to locate it. Again, remember, my friend, you're doing better than you think you are, and you are a person of influence. Until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying goodbye. Thank you, Facebook Live family, for being a part of this podcast today. We'll talk to you soon.